and not in the good, cute kind of way. So many alliterations. I really apologize for my voice because I feel like I'm going downhill as the video progresses. Not the spooky season. Hello lovely bookworms, I'm Esmay from Paradise Pages on Instagram and also on Twitter, and welcome to a new video. Today, as you can see from the title, the wrap-ups are back. I actually asked you guys over on Twitter if you wanted to see a regular sit down or if you wanted to see me, like I did last time, sit down, do my makeup and talk about books. Also, sorry about my voice, I am still quite a bit sick, so if I sound a little bit off, I am so sorry. I am a little bit off, but you know, it is what it is. That said, today I'm doing a regular sit down because that seemed to be something that you guys really wanted to see, so that is what we are doing today. Don't fret, actually there's already a video up of me sitting down doing this makeup look you're seeing right here. I am wearing a different shirt, but it's the same day. I wanted to at least look a little bit different, you know? So at that one I actually talk about some autumnal favorites, so I think that would be sort of the cozy thing to do, so I kind of did both, but not completely. So that said, this month the graphs are back again, so I have my phone here. I'm completely ready when you are, so without further ado, let's just get into book number 1. So that said, I actually read a total of 9 books this month, so that is a pretty decent month for me, at least I think. So the first graph is the least interesting one I think I can say, and that is whether I've reread anything, and the answer is no. All of the books that I've read are all first time books. Then let's move on whether I've read series or standalones. So I have read a total of 5 that are part of series and 3 standalones, so not unhappy about that. Then speaking of age category, it's pretty evenly divided, so I've read 4 adult books and 4 young adult books. Then the formatting, which I think is the most interesting one for the month this time around, because I have read mostly audiobooks. I have read 4 audiobooks, then I've read 2 ebooks and 2 physical books. So that's what the graph looks like. I'm very happy about that because I've been picking up my audiobook game a lot, and now since I'm actually moving into a new job, I'll be going to work 40 minutes there and 40 minutes back, so I can listen to quite a bit of an audiobook. So I'm actually gonna try to do that, so that's really good. Then for pages, which is always an interesting one, I think I have 6 different amounts. So I've read 1 book between 500 and 550 pages, 2 books between 400 to 450, then I've read 1 book that was under 100, I've read 2 books that were between 350 and 400 pages, 1 book between 450 and 500 pages, and that one that was between 300 and 350 pages. As for genre, very interesting once again because I'm shifting. No contemporaries this month, 4 fantasy books, 2 thrillers, a sci-fi and a horror book, so that is also really good, really different from my usual I think. And then the final graph is the stars, so I've read 4 3-star books, 3 5-star books, and 1 4-star book. So pretty decent month, I think a regular kind of month, but some new favorites. So without further ado, let's just get into the books that I've read. I really apologize for my voice because I feel like I'm going downhill as the video progresses, but that can't be helped really. So the first book that I've read this month was by Elise Kova. That is my ebook, or one of my ebooks, and that is A Duel with the Vampire Lord. This is a book that is in the Married with Magic series. This is book 3. I think the 4th one is called A Duet with the Siren Duke, I think. Anyway, this is the 3rd one, and we follow a girl who lives in a village that is very much sort of haunted by vampires, and then one night she actually gets abducted by one of them, by the Vampire Lord, and that's when everything starts. I did really enjoy this book. It was a fun story. There were some revelations that I did see coming, and I do have to say that the first one is still my favorite, A Duel with the Vampire King. No, not vampire, with the Elf King. Yeah, a Deal with the Elf King, sorry. Deal with the Elf King is still my favorite. So many alliterations. But this one is definitely interesting. I'm not sure whether I like Dance with the Fae Prince more than this one, but they're sort of evenly divided. So this one I actually gave 3 stars. It was a good book, but not necessarily my all-time favorite book, which is okay, but it was a good read and a fun read. So that's book number 1. Book number 2 is a 5-star, and that is a 5-star outside of my own genre, and that is One of the Girls by Lucy Clark. This is a book, I think I've talked about it quite a bit, and I've also put it on my list of last Tuesday. This is a book that is about 6 women that go on a hen party, and one of them actually goes there to kill for revenge, and I love this book. It was suspenseful, it was fun, it was very heartbreaking to figure out who did what and who ends up, you know, being killed. It was such a fun story, and it had me in all the right places. Really enjoyed all of the backstories of the girls as well, and in general I think that this, if you are looking to read a murder mystery that is just something that will keep you on your toes, this is definitely it. I really enjoyed it. I listened to this actually mostly, and then I read about, I would say like 30 or 40% of it, so the remainder. So I listened to a lot of it as I was going somewhere, and then when I came back I physically picked it up and finished it that way. So I'm calling this a physical book, but it's also kind of an audiobook, but that's okay. I feel like I sound like a seal, but oh well, and not in the good, cute kind of way. I actually read 8 books. I think I said 9 books, right? I read 8 books, not 9. Sorry. Number 3 was the shortest of the bunch, and that is Finna by Nino Cipri? Nino Cipri, I think. This is the sci-fi book that I've read, and I've only read this because it was a prompt for my Game of the Books. I personally I'm just not a sci-fi person, at least not at the point I am in my life right now. I just don't really enjoy it, so sadly I gave this one 3 stars. I do see, did I give it 3 stars? I think I gave it 3 stars. Yeah, I gave it 3 stars. It was still an interesting read, but it's just not for me, and I can easily spot that from a mile away. So sadly, not my most favorite, but there we go, it's okay. Speaking of a favorite though, this is one that will make it into my new favorites, or my absolute favorites list. That's Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. It is actually a new book by the same author who wrote Rock, Paper, Scissors. I still have to read that one, but this one is amazing. It has a huge wink or huge connection to And Then There Were None, and I love that book by Agatha Christie. Daisy Darker actually follows Daisy Darker as she gets invited to her nana's 80th birthday, and her nana always said that she won't live beyond the age of 80, and at the strike of midnight they find grandma dead, and that's basically when all hell breaks loose. This is such an unhinged, fun story. I think I can call this a thriller, mystery, horror. It is everything you want for the spooky season. The spooky season. Not the spooky. The spooky season. And it was such a good... It just really surprised me. It was such a surprising good book. And I really, really enjoyed it. So I cannot recommend this one enough. It is probably no surprise that I gave this one 5 stars, is it? Book number 5 is a book that I put on my TBR because I had to. I was not in the mood for it in the slightest, but that is Rain the Earth by A.C. Gallant, and man did this surprise me. It is a 5 star, let's start by saying that, and this follows a girl who basically she gets married to one of the rulers of an opposing country, and though her family needs this marriage, she doesn't mind, like if she wouldn't have gone through with it, they're okay with it too, but she goes through with it to save her family. And this book was just a pearl. I loved every minute of it, listened to quite a bit of it, but I read most of it. I listened to it, but also read quite a bit of it. And in general, this was just such a fun, interesting story. I love the protagonists in here. The characters are great, the world building, the magic system is interesting. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. So there's that one. And then because I was such a fan of Rain the Earth, I decided to read Incarnate the Sky, which is the sequel to Rain the Earth. But there was a very cruel or rude awakening as I realized that this was not about the same group of characters. It's a completely different group that you kind of encounter in the first book, and I just could not resonate with it. I just really wanted to know what happened to Shalia's story because it was nowhere near finished at the end of book 1. I also then started googling a bit, and there's no other book in this series. If there would have been, it would have also been from a different perspective, and I just really wanted Shalia's story. I really wanted to know what would happen, how things would get resolved. There was just such an open ending in the first book that I needed a second book in the same setting, just picking up right after the first book, and there's not, which I'm just sad about. I loved the first book, gave that one 5 stars. Second one, Incarnate the Sky. If it would have been the first book, I might have enjoyed it a bit more, but at this point I gave it 3 stars because it was interesting, but it was just not as good as Reign the Earth, so 3 stars for that one. Then I actually moved on to one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and that is none other than Master of Iron by Tricia Liebenzahler. This is the sequel to Blade of Secrets, and in this one we follow Ziva or Kiva. I think it's Kiva, because it's Ziva, because I'm actually reading a book now that has a Kiva as a main protagonist, so I keep mixing things up. But we follow Ziva. This immediately picks up after the first book, and I feel like this one opens up the world a lot more. I would have expected a very slow pace from this book due to the sense that there were a couple things at the end of book 1 that needed to get resolved, quite big things, and I thought that would take most of the book, and luckily for me it did not. It really picked up pace, included a lot of different things, opened up the world, and it still had our social anxious Ziva at the very center of it, which I really, really enjoyed. It was such a good book. I gave it 4 stars, not quite 5, but 4 stars. Really enjoyed it, and I cannot recommend this duology enough. If you want to read something different from the main protagonist is brave, and they're doing everything in their power, whereas Ziva just wants to tuck her tail in and run, which she can't, but she wants to. So really, really enjoyed it. Good duology, one of my new favorites. Final book on this list is one that I've been looking forward to for quite a bit, and I think is perfect for the season, and that is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This is about a girl who grows up in an institution, kind of, and she's a mute. She's not able to speak, make sound, but she's able to hear. And then she gets a message from her uncle to come back home to Gallant. And there's a lot of things going wrong at Gallant, or in Gallant. Very interesting story. I would have liked a lot more because I feel like certain things were a bit too easy. Honestly, if it weren't for the sort of graphic things that happen in this, I would call it a middle grade. It's not, it's young adult. But it was a fun, I read it in one sitting kind of book, and I think I gave this 4 stars? No, 3. I gave this one 3 stars. It was fun, but it was nowhere near as good as some of her other work, so I'm giving it 3 stars. That said, those were all of the books that I read in the month of September. I feel like I really got my reading mojo back when I started doing a lot of audiobooks. I'm planning to continue that in October, hopefully. I feel like a lot of the books that I have on my TBR... Oh, I'm actually forgetting one! Oh no! That one actually isn't included in the graph. Did I finish that one in September then? Or did I finish it in August? Yeah, I finished it on the final day of August, so I'm gonna include one more book in this, so it is 9 books. It is 9, kind of, but not really. But I'm gonna include The Hatmakers by Tamsin Merchant. I finished this on the second to final day of August, and it was such a fun read. I don't think I've included it in any wrap-ups, so that's okay. It was on my TBR for September, but I kind of finished it beforehand. But it was a wild card, so I've read more than 6 books, so I'm completely fine with the amount I've read. I feel like I've ticked all of the boxes for my game of the books, which I have. Not all of the books that were on my TBR were read, but I think the only one that wasn't read was Foundryside, which I was just not in the mood for. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with this reading month. As I said, I'm going to hopefully move this on to October and read some more spooky horror kind of books. In any case, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and press that little bell icon so you can post notifications every single time a new video goes up. And I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye!